Liftoff. The clock has started. Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Godspeed, John Glenn.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground.
New possibilities are opening up for scientific cooperation between countries.
2, 1, 0, 0.
Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Discovery, Roger. Go for deploy.
Thanks, Stu. Thanks, everybody in the shuttle program. The crew is go for launch.
Roger. Nice to be in orbit.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Hello and welcome to the NASA's Johnson Space Center. It's been an exciting night. After 20 years of continuous human presence, the International Space Station is still marking new milestones, and as of tonight has its first long-term crew of 7 members. So we have a lot to celebrate tonight, and here to talk it over with us, we have Associate Administrator of Human Exploration and Operations, Kathy Leaders, Johnson Space Center Director Mark Geyer, and socially distanced down the hall, Deputy Commercial Crew Program Manager Vin Fang, and International Space Station Manager Joel Montalbano. We'll let them each give a few opening remarks and then open it up to questions. For media on the line, press *1 to let us know you have a question, or *2 if your question gets answered before you ask it. Let's kick it off with Kathy.
Yeah, what a amazing last couple of days. I just can't tell you how wonderful it was to see the crew come through the hatch. And we've been talking a lot about all the firsts, right? This mission was a dream. It was a dream of us to be able to one day be able to have crew transportation services to the International Space Station. And today, that dream became a reality. Huge step for us, right? And it took a huge team of folks, not only SpaceX folks, but NASA folks and our federal agency friends and a whole, the DOD, a ton of people made this happen today. Just an amazing feat. Was not easy. This was hard. And then on top of it, one of the other firsts we had was we all had to do this in the time of a pandemic. I think there were some of us 6 or 7 months ago that if you would have thought about all the things that this team's had to go through, they would have just said, oh, this is too much, but it wasn't. This team has done a phenomenal job. The crew on orbit is going to do phenomenal things over this next 6 months, and we're going to keep doing crew missions, and it's the start of a new era. I'm very, very proud of the NASA, SpaceX, the agency teams, and our nation for stepping out and doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. We'll go next to Mark Geyer.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. And I want to thank you for your leadership, especially in making this happen. It is a terrific day for NASA and for the country in general. It's really exciting to see the 7 crew members as we envisioned, and I'm honored to wear the increment 64 pin today, so it's a great start to that mission. The astronauts are doing great. You saw them as they came through the hatch. They're excited to start their mission. They're very well trained, and they're ready to get started. You know, so we believe that NASA unites with our partners. And in this case, it can be commercial partners or international partners. You know, next year, we're going to have a lot of exciting missions, including continuing SpaceX missions, Boeing commercial crew, sending Orion out past the moon, eventually private astronaut missions, and also these smaller commercial lunar payload services missions where we're enabling small companies to deliver payloads to the lunar surface. Each of these are examples of how NASA can engage differently with companies. Sometimes we drive the design with our contractors. Sometimes we evaluate the design. Sometimes we are the operators. Sometimes we integrate the operations. All of these are ways where we are melding our skills, achieving NASA's missions, but also creating commercial capabilities in this country. That is a big part of our job. And of course, we're taking those skills, pushing out in the lunar region with Gateway and supporting lunar lander systems as well. So a great ending to the year. Terrific to see the crews on ISS. And so we look forward to all the work they're going to achieve this increment.
Thank you, Mark. Let's go next to Joel Montalbano.
Well, welcome again to the post-docking press brief. What an incredible achievement. And to have it happen in the month where we're celebrating 20 years of continuous human presence on board the International Space Station just puts a smile on my face. You know, yesterday we saw a picture-perfect launch, and today a very smooth docking. And with that, we welcome the Dragon vehicle and her crew to the International Space Station. We're looking forward to a significant amount of time on orbit. A significant number of months will be able to increase the amount of science, the amount of research, the amount of technology development we can do with the additional crew members. A huge thanks to the Commercial Crew Program. A huge thanks and congratulations to the SpaceX team. You know, I promise the International Space Station program will take good care of the Dragon vehicle and her crew. So back over to you, Brandy.
So much, Joel. And finally, we'll go to Vin Fang.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's an extremely exciting time to be in the space business right now. You know, as the Resilience crew just said right after hatch opening, they can't wait to get started. Well, we've had teams of NASA and SpaceX and other agencies involved in many ways through, as Kathy mentioned, their blood, sweat, and tears over the years. This sort of culminates in the hatch opening and the crew joining the ISS for a 6-month stay on board the space station. So we're so proud of the teams. The arrival of Resilience marks the beginning, as was mentioned before, of another first-time event. This time the government commercial crew rotation mission to the ISS, and looking back at another first that happened almost exactly 10 years ago with the same team members involved. NASA and SpaceX shared a similar accomplishment with the launch to a low Earth orbit of the COTS Demo Flight number 1 mission in early December of 2010. That flight demonstrated the capabilities of Falcon and Dragon and the partnership, and since then have had 20 successful cargo flights to the ISS, which have now led in just the last 6 months to these 2 crew missions, DM2 in May, and then the Crew 1 arrival just today. And as Joel mentioned, we're proud to be part of the ISS 20-year anniversary, which is this month with that Expedition 1 crew arrival. We're proud to follow in the footsteps of all the other 63 expeditions that came before this one, and glad to join for Expedition 64. So a huge shout out to the NASA and SpaceX teams. Excellent job, many hard years of work, and we're looking forward to making this a very successful first operational mission and many more to follow. Thank you.
Great words to start us out there. We do just have a few reporters on the line, so if you have a question, you can press *1, *2 if your question gets answered before you ask it. And as we call on you, if you could direct your question to who you would like to answer it. Let's start with Reuters.
Doing this, and congrats on a successful flight. I guess this question could be for anybody who wants to answer. I was wondering if there's any kind of like bidding or quarrels over who gets to sleep in Crew Dragon, and I was wondering what kind of value will having someone sleep in Crew Dragon provide to SpaceX and NASA. Are you guys getting any data out of that, or what kind of tests are you going to perform with that? Thanks.
Yeah, I think our plan is to have Hopper sleep in the Dragon. It's been checked out operationally, ventilation, caution and warning, and so forth. So I think it's going to be an excellent opportunity to use that and test it out as a habitable module. And so that's our current plan, and we look forward to learning a lot. And we think it's going to be very comfortable, modern accommodations for them.
Several of us would like to be sleeping in there tonight. Next, we'll go to Business Insider.
Hi, thanks for doing this, and congrats, everybody. This question is for Kathy. You've got a long mission ahead. What are you most looking forward to, and what's going to keep you up at night, if anything, over the next 6 months? Thanks.
Well, you know, Joel's got a whole list of items that he wants these crew members to start working on. I mean, he's been a little bit starved of crew members, and he's got a backlog of work and science that he needs them to go get done. You know, when you have people on board, you always are maintaining vigilance and making sure, just like we do with station, this having Dragon up there just means we have more people on orbit that we always are thinking of and making sure that we're taking care of them. It's what makes human space flights so fun and challenging is that you always have to realize that you're maintaining human safety in a tough environment. So, but we have a great station program, like Joel said. They will take care of the crew members, and they make my ability to sleep a little bit better at night. So I'm counting on you, Joel.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Nashville News.
My question is for Kathy. As you described at the beginning of this press conference, you know, it was tough to get to this point. What do you feel is the biggest risk when docking to the International Space Station? Thank you.
Well, what makes it really nice is the spacecraft makes it look easy, right? But to get there isn't easy. It took a lot of joint work between the SpaceX and NASA teams to share their learning and to go through a lot of technical interchange, and a ton of testing to make it look like that. And it was a real testament today that we could all sit there and kind of be talking while it was going on and not biting our nails. And so I think it's actually that the Dragon's a beautiful vehicle, and she did a nice job today.
Definitely. Next up, we've got space.com.
Thank you all for doing this. And yeah, congratulations. This is probably for Joel. Could you just talk a little bit about what it means to have that extra crew member on board, that seventh astronaut? What does that mean for the research potential of this next 6-month stint coming up and maybe beyond as we see this happen more often? Thank you.
So one of the cool things about having the commercial crew program is we're able to double the amount of crew-tended science and research and technology development we do on board the International Space Station. So with 3 crew members, we were averaging about 35 hours a week of crew-tended science and research. With the 4th crew member, that person's time, the equivalent time, is dedicated to science and utilization and research, so 70 hours. So we'll have be able to do 70 hours with the 4 crew members. So with that, it kind of sets the standard for us for these next years as we continue to develop the International Space Station, continue to use it, and allow us to do not only the science and research we have, but technology demonstration that will help us with the Artemis program.
Okay, and I think we have a follow-up next from Business Insider. We do have time for just a couple of follow-ups, so if you do have another question, you can press *1 again, but we'll try and keep it short because I know these guys have been up for a while. Business Insider next.
Hi, yeah, thanks for taking another question from me. I guess this question is also for Kathy or for anybody else who feels they can answer it. Just wanted to follow up on something that did come up in the last 27 hours, that propellant line heater and the thermal control system issues. Were those issues fully resolved? And if you could talk about what happened there, is there any reason this popped up in orbit but not on the ground? I'm also curious about any other issues you're tracking or if there's anything so far from this flight that needs further investigation. Thank you.
So, Vin, why don't you take this one? Because you've been in our launch complex area and the mission control area following along pretty diligently. So these are your team's issues.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah, so the vehicle is actually remarkably clean. So After clearing a couple of alarms a little bit after launch yesterday, the vehicle arrived at the station today with full redundancy, full functionality, no issues whatsoever. Earlier on, yes, there was a discussion about the prop line heaters. They did trip off. Basically, it was based on fitter or fault detection limits that were set very tightly on the ground. So SpaceX was very quick to identify the cause of it, meaning it was a barely out of spec, barely out of fitter limit that tripped it off for safety reasons. They identified it, I'd say, within an hour. They had a fix proposed. Within 2 hours, they had a solution that was ready to be checked by the joint NASA and SpaceX team, and just shortly after that, they uplinked it, and everything was fine afterwards. The problem that they were protecting against was to make sure that the propellant line stayed within their thermal limits, just to make sure that there's full functionality of the prop. In the end, it turned out that that limit was tighter than it needed to be, so it was quickly fixed, and Dragon's in beautiful shape.
Okay, it looks like we also have a follow-up question from Reuters.
Hey, thank you. Just to follow up on that for then, other than the prop line heaters, other than that issue, was there anything else that you guys detected during flight or during the docking sequence that kind of looked off, or that, something that was unexpected that you didn't see in prior tests? Thanks.
There was only one other thing of note that we tracked, and again, it was also shortly after launch. It had to do with the thermal control system. There's a loop A and a loop B, and on each of those loops, there are segments of the thermal loop that are isolated from other segments. And so based on differentials with the temperature, essentially, when you've got certain parts of the loop that are exposed to different temperatures, and they're equalized when they're on the ground at the same temperature, and they were exposed to some different temperatures and loads during this early phase of flight. So once the isolation between those two parts of the loops was opened and no longer isolated, it caused a pressure transient, which ended up also causing a fault detection, to trip and cause one loop to go offline temporarily. Again, there was no issue. Again, it was also one of these cases where the problem was identified very quickly. Looking back at previous tests and DM2, the previous mission, it was something that was seen before, but not enough such that it tripped off any sort of limit. So again, it was identified very quickly. The team was all over it and was able to fix it very quickly. So no issues whatsoever right now with thermal control.
But I think both of those are examples of how you learn. You learn how your system operates while you're flying, and kind of how to operate it in a way and how it's going to operate on orbit. So like we had mentioned in the question, was it something that you learned while you're flying? Yes, those are both things that, from a system perspective, are pretty normal things that you learn while you're starting to bring on a new system.
I think it's prudent. Folks have been very cautious in setting those limits, and so yeah, absolutely. You learn with thermal, you have convection on the ground, and you have other effects, and you can't simulate all of those. So we do put in limits which are tight so that we can see those far before they end up becoming problematic, and that was the case here.
Okay, that looks like our last question. Thank you so much to our briefers and also to the reporters who stuck with us through the long operations tonight. I think it was well worth the wait. It's great to have Crew Dragon at the International Space Station tonight. And just a reminder that you can tune back into NASA TV on Wednesday morning to see the two Russian members of the space station crew take a spacewalk. Sergei Ryzhikov and Sergei Kuznetsov will be going outside the Poisk module to do some work preparing for the arrival of a new Russian research module. Coverage will begin at 7:30 a.m. Central Time, and the spacewalk is expected to start at 8:30 a.m. So you want to be back on Wednesday for that. And again, thank you and have a great night.